Fyodor Ilyich Tchaikovsky was a 19th century Russian composer. Some of his significant works would be the 1812 Overture, his Sixth Symphony, and ballets such as The Nutcracker and Swan Lake. He was also known to compose operas. That said, he died in his 50s, not long after premiering his Sixth Symphony Pathétique, becoming ill and dying only days after. Though he was well known in his life, being a favorite of Tsar Alexander III, his death was sudden and under mysterious circumstances. Doctors at the time announced his cause of death to be cholera from drinking non-boiled water. This would be the commonly accepted fact until the 1980s, when a Soviet musicologist under the name of Alexandra Orlova challenged this consensus. Orlova stated that Tchaikovsky's death was not from disease but from poison, and was self-administered. According to Orlova, after premiering his Sixth Symphony, Tchaikovsky was invited to the home of Nikolai Borisovich Jacobi, head prosecutor of the Russian Senate and a classmate of Tchaikovsky. He found himself presented before a court of honor consisting of members of the College of Law. It must be noted that Tchaikovsky was gay, and this is what the trial was going to be under. It was well known within his inner circle that he was in fact homosexual. He had multiple male partners throughout his life, and unfortunately after premiering the Sixth Symphony, the father of one became aware of the affair, and this was brought before the legal body, or at least before Jacobi, who wanted to keep this under the wraps. When Tchaikovsky was brought before this kangaroo court, that was commonly deemed as a court of honor, it was stressed that soon the Tsar, Russia, and the world might be made aware of his sexuality. The court then presented Tchaikovsky with an ultimatum, to kill himself or to be tried by the state and have the whole world know his secret. Orlova learned this from her mentor, who himself heard it from the wife of Nikolai Borisovich Jacobi. This is her full account, and this has been taken from an excerpt from a 1981 issue of the Washington Times. Just as Tchaikovsky arrived in St. Petersburg to conduct his Sixth Symphony, a ranking member of the nobility, Duke Steinbach-Thurmore, wrote an outraged letter of complaint to Tsar Alexander III. The Duke claimed his nephew was being corrupted by Tchaikovsky, who, he said, had induced the young man to engage in a homosexual love affair. The letter was given to Jacobi with instructions to deliver it personally to the Tsar. Jacobi, according to his widow, was stunned by the Duke's accusations. He was not surprised to read the composer's homosexuality. Many people were aware of it, although no one talked about it. Apparently, Tchaikovsky was forgiven everything by his inner circle of admirers. What galvanized Jacobi was the thought of a court case involving Tchaikovsky, which would have meant a scandal not only for Russia, but for the whole world. The Tsar's intent for Tchaikovsky and his music was well known. Jacobi knew that a public airing of the affair would bring disgrace on the royal house itself. Since the Duke's letter was an official complaint, Jacobi couldn't ignore it, but instead of delivering it to the Tsar, he decided to call a court of honor to determine what was to be done. The court was made up of himself and any other graduates of the College of Law who could have been rounded up on short notice. The court was finally composed of 8 men. On October 31st, they met along with Tchaikovsky at Jacobi's office at his home, while his wife sat in the anteroom, knitting. Miss Jacobi was later reported that she couldn't hear the words spoken at the meeting, but she did hear shouting and agitated and angry voices, sometimes long silence. 5 hours after the group had convened, Tchaikovsky dashed from the room. His face was white, said Miss Jacobi, and his eyes were glassy. Usually a model of courtesy, on this occasion Tchaikovsky only glanced at Miss Jacobi and fled from the house. After everyone else left, Miss Jacobi said her husband told her the court made a judgment on Tchaikovsky. They had asked for his death to save the Imperial College of Law and the Tsar from disgrace. He was to take his own life, and he was to do it in such a way that no one would know. It was apparently agreed that poison would be obtained for him. Tchaikovsky later became ill on the morning of November 2nd. He refused to permit the doctor to examine him until that evening, when he must have known the poison had taken effect. He died 4 years later. The circumstances surrounding this are entirely hearsay, they say, but it's a fascinating stipulation, and it's not out of question with how 19th century Tsarist Russia would have handled a high-profile member being homosexual. 19th century Europe was surprisingly extremely conservative, and Russia was among the most extreme within this case. This is what might have motivated Jacobi to carry out his heinous affair, in the fact that he decided that the honor of Russia, the royal court, and himself was more important than this man's life. Unfortunately, Tchaikovsky died about the age of 53, and this was within the year of 1893. Though he was getting a little older, it was likely he still would have had many more years. Tchaikovsky himself was a troubled mind, suffering through depression, and a lot of the common struggles of being gay within the 19th century. He was able to give a substantial body of work to the classical music community and is still to this day a key cultural figure for the Russian identity. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed my monotone voice. Take care.